Tonight, members of the motion picture and television community have gathered for the presentation of the American Film Institute Life Achievement Award, the highest honor for a career in film. Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the 18th Annual Life Achievement Award, Sir David Lean. The Beverly Hilton Hotel, the 18th Annual American Film Institute Life Achievement Award. A salute to Sir David Lean. Achievement Award, Mr. Gregory Peck.
One damp British morning in 1941, a young film editor was called for an interview with the great Noel Coward. The playwright and director, having already conquered the world of the theater, had decided it was time to move on to the world of film. Hedging his bets, he wanted a competent technician by his side to take care of those little mechanical matters involved in the process of movie making. So he met with the young editor, and satisfied that he would fill the bill, he offered him a job. There remained the question of screen credit. "I think it would be fair," said Coward, "if you were to be called assistant to the director, don't you?" "No, sir, I don't think it would," replied the editor. "I believe it should say it was directed by you and me." Coward thought that over for a moment. "You and me, but who's ever heard of you?" The young man simply looked at him and said, "One day they will." Tonight we're here to honor that somewhat impudent young fellow. Over the intervening 50 years, he's grown into a master storyteller, the man who has been called the cinema's poet of the far horizon, Sir David Lean. Tonight marks the 18th of these annual occasions when we celebrate the art of film and honor an individual whose work has stood the test of time. It is the first time the American Film Institute will present its Silver Star to a filmmaker from abroad. But when you run up against a man like this, with a vision and artistry such as his, well, sometimes you just have to bend the rules, as he has all his life. Good news for all of us. This summer, David Lean will be behind the camera once again, directing his film version of the Joseph Conrad novel, Nostromo. Tonight we're here to celebrate his achievements and to see scenes from some of the films that are the David Lean legacy. So let's start at the beginning. He is a dreamer and adventurer who says to us, "See the world through my eyes." When young David was born outside of London, his Quaker parents intended for his path to be straight and simple. Boarding school would prepare him for a life of solid respectability. But while his brother excelled, David's teachers said he had no aptitude for anything. He left school to apprentice at his father's accounting firm. Not a happy place for a dreamer. Then at 17, he first entered the place that had been forbidden to him. It had an immediate magic for me, he said. That beam of light traveling through the smoke. said to his father, "I'd like to go into the films." It was as if I said I wanted to join the circus. They needed a T-boy at Gaumont British Studios. But before long, he was herding extras, then holding the numbers board. Long days passed quickly. He was learning. Then he found his home, the cutting room where films are shaped. Quickly mastering the new techniques of synchronized sound, his skills were in demand.
No. Do it again.
I'll try.
No. I've told you 500 times. You drive me mad, girl. Come here.
As editor of Pygmalion,
What's more?
a filmmaker's style began to grow.
Oh, I'm Mr. Freddie Hill to see Miss Doolittle.
I'll inquire, sir.
Thanks.
Throw him out. Now listen, Eliza.
She's engaged.
In Which We Serve was to be playwright Noel Coward's film tribute to the heroism of the British Navy. Aware of Lean's technical skill, Coward hired him as a co-director to handle the action scenes.
Abandon ship!
Coward noticed that Lean had a sure hand with the actors, and one day he said, "My dear, I'll just leave it to you."
What we will deal with is the most important disillusionment of all. And that is...
Stop her, somebody. This is rank mutiny.
And that is that wherever she goes, there is always in her life a permanent and undefeated rival, her husband's ship. Whether it be a battleship or a sloop, a submarine or a destroyer, it holds first place in his heart. It comes before wife, home, children, everything. Some of us try to fight this and get badly mauled in the process. Others, like myself, resign themselves to the inevitable. That is what you will have to do, my poor Marine. That is what we all have to do if we want any peace of mind at all. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my rival. It's extraordinary that anyone could be so fond and so proud of their most implacable enemy. This ship. God bless this ship and all who sail it.
From that day on, David Lean was a director. David took his mother to a theater to see In Which We Serve. He was, to be sure, a tad nervous as they sat together and watched the film. The audience was moved by this story of men at war, and at the end there was applause. David turned to his mother and asked what she thought. "Oh, that was lovely, dear. But David," she said, "what does directed by mean?" Well, he didn't have the answer that night. But over the years, he's come up with several theories on the subject. The moments you remember in movies are not often dialogue. They are images, pictures with music and sounds that move you. It is emotions, not spectacle, that make a picture big. And the most important thing of all is to find a story you can fall in love with. Now, here are some of the stories that David Lean fell in love with during the early days.
Keep still, you little devil, or I'll cut your throat.
No, sir, no.
Tell us your name. Quick.
Pip. Pip, sir. Sir.
Show us where you live. Point out the place.
There, sir. There. Oh. 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 Oh.
Now, where's your mother?
There, sir. No, sir. There, sir. Also Georgiana. That's my mother.
Ah. And is that your father along with your mother?
Yes, sir. Him too. Late of this parish.
Ah. And who'd you live with? Supposing you're kindly let to live, which I ain't made up my mind about yet.
With my sister, sir. Mrs. Joe Gargery. Wife of Joe Gargery, the blacksmith.
Blacksmith, eh? Now look at here. Do you know what a file is?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what whittles is?
Yes, sir. Food, sir.
Then you get me a file and you get me whittles, or I'll have your heart and liver out.
If you would kindly let me keep upright, sir, perhaps I shouldn't be sick and perhaps I could attend more. Please, sir. I want some more.
What? What?
What? Ask for more?
There's your train.
Yes.
You mustn't miss it.
No.
What's the matter?
Nothing. Nothing at all, really.
It's been so very nice. I've enjoyed my afternoon enormously.
I'm so glad. So have I. I apologize for boring you with long medical words.
I feel dull and stupid not to be able to understand more.
Shall I see you again?
It's the other platform, isn't it? You have to run. Don't bother about me. Mine's not due for a few minutes.
Shall I see you again?
Yes, of course. Perhaps you'll come out to Ketchworth one Sunday. It's rather far, I know, but we should be delighted.
Please. Please.
What is it?
Next Thursday. The same time.
I couldn't possibly.
Please. I ask you, most humbly.
You miss your train.
All right.
Run.
Goodbye.
I'll be there.
Thank you, my dear.
The young man who played ordinary seaman Shorty Blake in Which We Served also starred in Great Expectations, This Happy Breed, Hobson's Choice, and Ryan's Daughter. And he's flown here from England to honor his friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir John Mills.
Well, there are very few people at my age that I would suffer a 22-hour journey for, with an unpaid engagement at the end of it. David is one of my very oldest friends. We were born in the same year, very near each other, and we started work about the same time, in about 1929. David was a tea boy, a runner at the old Gaumont British Studios, and I was in the back row of the chorus at the London Hippodrome. Now, I'm sure that everyone here tonight knows and agrees that David Lean is one of the world's greatest and most successful directors. But what you don't know, and I've never publicly stated this before, is that I am entirely responsible for it. Everyone needs some luck in this business, and David's great piece of luck was, at the beginning of his career, he had the enormous good fortune to direct me in 4 of my pictures. But after Great Expectations, David took off, left the country. And for several years, I had a very lean time without Lean. I got lucky, and I met David in Rome several years later. We were having dinner together, and Mary, my wife, said, "David, what's been going on with you? You know, you haven't worked with Johnny for years. Isn't there something in Ryan's Daughter for him?" And David looked at me and took one of those long pauses that goes on forever. And he said, "Johnny, do you think you could play a dumb village idiot?" I said, "No problem, David, typecast it." David's always been called the great perfectionist. And the thing I loved about working with David was that if you waited, you always knew you were going to get the most marvelous frame you could possibly get in any film anywhere. So I never mind waiting. We had one shot we wanted to get in Ryan's Daughter. It was a famous Lean shot. Great broad beach, sky, sea, everything had to be right. Mitchum, one corner of the screen, Sarah Miles had to meet. The famous Lean shot, meet the middle, parasol up in the air. Well, Ireland's not an easy country to shoot in, and the weather is appalling. And we went on and on and on trying to get this shot. And finally, one morning, everything was absolutely perfect. Turned the cameras, the sea was right, the sky was right, the sound was right, Mitchum was right, Sarah was there, and everything worked fine. And Freddie Young turned to David and said, "Well, all right? Right, David?" David said, "No." Freddie said, "Why? I mean, it was all perfect, David. What's the matter?" David said, "No seagulls." So the property man came along with a truck, went to the fish market, got a lot of fish. He stood on the ticket and chucked the fish in, and on came the seagulls. And David got his perfect picture. Well, David, I want to say to you, don't stop making pictures. You can make 4 more for both of us before we're both 100. Thank you very much.
O céu apresenta-se nublado, mas a noite promete. Prevê-se a ocorrência de chuvas torrenciais que inundarão o nosso programa de talentos. Cante ou encante esta sexta-feira com Chuva de Estrelas.
Sexta-feira, chuva de estrelas. Nascido a 4 de julho. Nova massa de letrinhas coloridas de triunfo. Dá asas à imaginação.
Agora a conta poupança habitação dá-lhe acesso a uma série de vantagens. Dedução até 320 contos no IRS. Um sorteio mensal que duplicará 5 contas até 10.000 contos cada. E também pode mudar a sua conta no caso de lhe oferecerem melhores condições. Informe-se pelo telefone 795-7575. Poupança habitação. Bom investimento.
Intensamente. Old Spice. A marca do homem.
Clube privado. Acesso reservado a conversas sérias e a ouvidos indiscretos. Marca em Lisboa e Porto 506-202-222. Para o resto do país 0670-202-222. Entre no clube mais privado do país. Ligue já.
Psst, que dia é hoje?
Hoje é dia de saludães. Com saludães, posso criar todos os dias um novo prato de fazer crescer água na boca. Para mim, é sempre dia de saludães.
Saludães, o arroz de todas as ocasiões.
Michael J. Fox.
Concierge.
Por amor ou por dinheiro. Ele pensava que não existia nada tão sedutor como o dinheiro. Enganou-se.
Baby!
Por amor ou por dinheiro, sexta-feira estreia.
O que é que achas da ideia de usar um preservativo em segunda mão? Um perfeito disparate, não é? Uma seringa em segunda mão é pior. Não partilhes a tua seringa usada. Troca-a por outra em qualquer farmácia até 31 de dezembro. Sem dramas, sem complicações. Diz não a uma seringa em segunda mão.
Agora, com o novo sistema, tudo é mais simples, porque o crédito a taxa fixa também é bonificado. Mais flexível, porque você já pode optar pelo regime que mais lhe convém. Mais fácil, porque as prestações são mais baixas. Informe-se junto da banca ou pelo telefone 795-7575. Habitação. Bom investimento.
Se fosse um carro, era um Polo. Volkswagen Polo. A essência das emoções.
Carlos Carvalhas. O secretário-geral do Partido Comunista vai enfrentar as perguntas necessárias. Cabe-lhe a si avaliar as respostas. Não perca, amanhã, mais um grande debate. A SIC Entrevista. Carlos Carvalhas.
Sir David, you've been honored in your own country. Tonight is an opportunity greatly welcome for your colleagues in this country to express our respect and admiration. And in that spirit, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Steven Spielberg.
We're here today to honor and say thank you to Sir David Lean, but I feel that I'm here today on a more personal basis because David brought me here, and in fact, David, you could say, bought me my ticket. Because it was two of his films, The Bridge of the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia, that most made me want to be a filmmaker. The scope and audacity of those films filled my dreams with unlimited possibilities. Lawrence gives me the same source of inspiration now, and thanks to the restoration, its inspiration can be, for all of us, perpetual. We have to look back so that we can keep looking forward, and whenever I turn around, I only see Lawrence. Every tool used to make movies was used in the making of Lawrence of Arabia, used and fused, sometimes past what we might have thought possible. The performances, the editing, the score, the costume design, the production design, and Robert Bolt's screenplay, which as far as I'm concerned is the best ever written. All these elements were put together by David Lean with consummate brilliance and absolute economy. There's nothing extraneous in Lawrence or in any Lean picture. There's nothing ever wasted. Every shot is a clue that unlocks the plot, and every image is an echo of the heart. So for me, Lawrence is somewhere between a cornerstone and a grail. I was inspired the first time I saw it. It made me feel puny. It still makes me feel puny. And that's one measure of its greatness, because it's a continued inspiration and it keeps cutting the rest of us down to size. Writers often reflect on the intensity of their first reading experiences. They remember what it was like the first time they encountered Dickens or Hemingway or Mark Twain or Thomas Hardy. And I felt and remember that kind of intensity about all of David Lean's movies. David Lean makes movies that are the equivalent of great novels, with one difference. When you read, it's your imagination that sparks the imagery. But in films, you have to trust the director's imagination. And if he's a good director, then you don't betray that trust. But if you're a great director like David, you can even go past it. And he puts pictures on the screen that not even our imaginations can anticipate. Gregory Peck quoted someone as having said that David Lean is the movie's greatest poet of the far horizon. And for me, Sir David Lean brings that horizon closer for all of us, and then he sails right across it. And his movies are truly the voyage of a lifetime. And I'm here to say for everyone, thank you for taking all of us with you.
do it, boy. You've got to do it now.
Colonel Saito, have you a knife? I've just realized the bridge has been mined.
Mined?
Good boy. Officers, sir. British officer, here to blow up the bridge. Blow up the bridge? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. British commando orders, sir. Blow up the bridge. Yes, sir. Look out, there's no fire. No! Look out now! Help! Kill him. Kill him! Let me go, sir. You don't understand, sir. Kill him! Kill him! Help! Help! Kill him, guys! Kill him! What have I done?
David Lean has inspired so many American filmmakers. One of them is the director of Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Martin Scorsese.
Max Ophuls once said, "The camera exists to show things on the screen that cannot exist anywhere else, on stage or in life. Aside from that, I have no use for it. I'm not interested in photography." I always thought that might apply to David Lean as well. He's a great picture maker. His images stay with me forever. But what makes them memorable isn't necessarily their beauty. That's just good photography. It's the emotion behind those images that's meant the most to me over the years. It's the way David Lean can put feeling on film. The way he shows a whole landscape of the spirit. For me, that's the real geography of David Lean country. And that's why in a David Lean movie, there's no such thing as an empty landscape. Thank you, David.
The writer-director of Silverado and The Big Chill, Lawrence Kasdan.
Early in 1963, my brother and I rode a bus for 90 blocks down Miami Beach to see Lawrence on the Lincoln Mall. We arrived 7 minutes late for the matinee. And my brother, who was older at 19 and wiser than I, refused to go in the theater. So we loitered in the street for 6 hours so we could go to the evening show and see it properly right from the beginning. And while we waited, I thought my brother was out of his mind. But when the show was over, I knew that he had done the right thing, because every moment mattered. As I stumbled from that theater, I had a new hero. And it wasn't T.E. Lawrence, it was David Lean. And I was an unusual creature, a 14-year-old who knew what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. For that, Sir David, I thank you.
One of the world's most honored filmmakers, and himself a recipient of the Life Achievement Award, Billy Wilder.
About 40 years ago, I remember I had lunch with Ernst Lubitsch at the Brown Derby. And we were discussing a writer at MGM who desperately wanted to become a director. And finally got the chance, and they gave him an 18-day schedule. And I turned to Lubitsch and I said, look, this guy, he never directed a picture before. Now he's got 18 days. That's too tough. I think that you, with the great experience, you get 80 days, you should make a picture in 18 days. Give that newcomer 80 days. And Lubitsch said, bullshit. He said, this guy would not know what to do with 80 days. So tonight we are honoring a man who knows what to do with 80 days and 160 days and 320 days. Over budget, or over schedule, who cares? Look at the work, look at the celluloid, look at the films. And I would like to very much thank the American Film Institute for the choice you made. I just have two little questions. Who else, and what took you so long? Thank you.
Sir David, from all of us working in pictures today, thank you for your inspiration, thank you for your films, and thank you for ours.
After the success of Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago, David could do just about anything that he wanted to do. And what he chose to do was a love story. He and Robert Bolt, who had written the screenplays for Lawrence and Dr. Zhivago, decided to tell the story of Flaubert's Madame Bovary in an Irish setting. Here is David Lean at his intimate best. No camels, no grand vistas, just a middle-aged Irish schoolmaster and a young student.
Come to lend me a hand. Well, now let's see. For a start, you could put the kettle in.
Not at all. I come to say something. I feel like a child in this place. And I'm not a child. Do you know that?
I know that. Rose, I've maybe an idea what you came to say.
You have no idea at all.
Well, I'm just saying, in case it helps a bit, I maybe have.
I love you.
Will you come inside? Will you sit down then? Why? I'd like to talk to you, Rose.
Well, I know what that means.
Rose, this sort of thing can come about, you know, a girl taking a fancy to a teacher.
Thanks.
Well, fancy's all it is, Rose. Rose, you've mistaken a penny mirror for the sun. Do you not see that?
I see you always digging a low pit for yourself when you should be standing on a heap of pride.
Well, Rose, you're coming here today and saying what you've said is the only cause I've ever had for pride. I don't just see, Rose. I only taught you about Byron and Beethoven and Captain Blood. I'm not one of them fellas myself.
I'm not daft, you know.
But you're terribly young.
Aye. And that's a hanging matter, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's not.
Well, then?
It's not a hanging matter to be young, but it maybe should be a hanging matter for a man of middle age to try and steal the youth from a young girl. Especially a man like me and a girl like you. You were meant for the wide world, Rose, not this place, not this. Me, I was born for it. It wouldn't do, Rose. I just know it wouldn't.
So you don't want me then?
Our distinguished 1983 recipient of this award, John Huston, gave the world a legacy of unforgettable films and an actress daughter of great distinction, Angelica Houston.
I was 9 years old. It was 1962 at the Odeon Leicester Square Theatre in London. It was the world premiere Royal Command performance of Lawrence of Arabia, and I was there. I remember being excited because that night I was going to see the Queen. But to tell the truth, I don't remember much about seeing the Queen. But the extraordinary images shown on the giant screen that night are still with me. When one thinks of David Lean's films, one thinks of great scale and the sweep of history. But within, there is always intimacy. They say the poet can reach where the sun cannot. And I remember those moments of revelation in his films. Private moments between characters where we witness loneliness or passion, desperation, or romance that we immediately recognize and claim as our own. We see this in Brief Encounter and in Summertime, in Dr. Zhivago and Ryan's Daughter. I saw Ryan's Daughter in 1972 and, like so many others, waited and waited and waited for the next David Lean film. He made us wait 14 years, but then he gave us A Passage to India. In A Passage to India, he explored the conflicts between two cultures. He gave us magnificence and color, and as always, humanity and heart. I want to thank you, Sir David, for that magical night in London so many years ago, and for the joy and the inspiration that will be with us forever.
Kaha hai, Mr. Fielding?
What are you doing out here?
Please come back.
Of course.
Here you see the celebrated hospitality of the East. Look at the mess. Look at the flies. Look at the plaster coming off the wall.
Oh, please.
Here is my home, where you come to be insulted by my friends.
That was fair enough. And you'd better get back into bed.
And then you will have to be off.
You should rest.
I can rest all day, thanks to Dr. Lal. Major Calendar's spy. I suppose you know that.
Major Calendar doesn't trust anyone, English or Indian. That's his character. I wish you weren't under him. But you are, and that's that. There we are. Try sleeping for a bit.
Before you go...
Yes?
Will you please open that drawer under the clock? There's a grey cardboard folder. That's right. Open it. She was my wife. You are the first Englishman she has ever come before. Now put her away.
I don't know why you pay me this great compliment, but I do appreciate it.
Oh, it is nothing. She was not a highly educated woman, or even beautiful. But I loved her. Now put her away. You would have seen her anyhow.
You would have allowed me to see her?
Why not? I believe in the Parda, but I would have told her you were my brother.
Would she have believed you?
Of course not. Put her away. She's dead. I showed her to you because I have nothing else to show.
What's going on out there?
Mrs. Moore, we are almost there. I will now explain to you about the ladder. It is to be your big surprise. You cannot imagine how you honor me. I feel that I am journeying back into my past, and that I'm a Mughal emperor. Sometimes I shut my eyes and dream I have splendid clothes again, and that I'm riding into battle behind Alamgir. He too rode an elephant.
Nascido a 4 de julho. Sente-se em baixo de forma. E já tomou alguma coisa? Já? E continua assim? Estou rouco. Então, é porque ainda não tomou Mel Granja São Francisco. O Mel Granja São Francisco, além de ser natural e com garantia, possui muitas substâncias benéficas para o organismo. Mel Granja São Francisco. Há alimento melhor.
Há certos aniversários que nunca devem ser esquecidos, mesmo que devam ser lembrados em silêncio.
Eu tô mais preocupado é com esses moleques que sumiram daqui, viu? Calmadinha Morena.
Morena não para de pensar nos dois meninos.
Vixe Maria, você jura? Mas como é que você sabe disso?
Que eles vão chegar em São Paulo. Não vou encontrar ninguém para contar a história nenhuma.
Amanhã, não perca. Renascer. Colacau.
The star of a passage to India has flown from England to be here. Mr. James Fox.
When I was 8 years old, I saw my very first film. It was shown on my school's old 16mm projector. And the film kept stopping while the reel was changed, but I remember every thrilling moment. The film was David Lean's Great Expectations. And as I grew up, I saw all of David's films, and every one of them was a landmark. And then the time came when there was a chance, a very slim chance, that I might actually be in one of them. David was making A Passage to India, and I desperately wanted to play Fielding. So I was summoned to the Berkeley Hotel in London to meet him. It was a nerve-wracking experience. David Lean is a legend. He is the greatest living film director. And there he was, tanned and fit, full of beans, just as he is tonight. We talked for an hour or so, and I left with a script. He hadn't told me, but I was going to be his Fielding. Now, Passage to India was an extraordinary experience. David is a man who heightens every occasion. He dominates any company. There is also something very British about him in a grand Somerset Maughamish sort of way. He is a viceroy, a natural commander. Some of the crew on A Passage to India were complaining about the exhausting pace the 75-year-old director was setting. And David said, "Dogs bark when the elephant walks by." I remember him saying once, "I make the films that I like to see." It's one of the thrills of my life that I was in one of them. Thank you.
David Lean searched high and low for the right boy to play the Artful Dodger in Oliver Twist. That 14-year-old grew up to be Anthony Newley.
I had the rare privilege of appearing in Oliver Twist. And Sir David had me cut all my hair off, shave all my hair off. And he had the makeup department place a hazelnut in my left nostril. This gave my face a slightly off-kilter look. And he did explain the reason for it at the time, but I have forgotten what it was. I only made one film for Sir David, and I guess I've spent the rest of my life waiting for him to call me back. But I do think this is a fine time, sir, to say that I am ready to put another nut up my nose anytime you want.
The man who composed the music for Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, Ryan's Daughter, and A Passage to India, and out of these 4 films received 3 Academy Awards. Maurice Jarre.
Thank you, David. You remember you asked me to come to Madrid to see some rushes for Dr. Zhivago and to be a little bit involved with the film. And during this time you fell in love with a Russian melody playing by Russian orchestra. And you said, "Look, Maurice, I think we should use that music for Lara theme." I was a little disappointed, of course, but just I said, I will do it. And I was starting to think we are going to do a really beautiful score with this melody. And one day, the copyright lawyer of the MGM came to see you and said, "Mr. Lean, I think we have bad news." And you said, "Yes, what?" He said, "Well, it's impossible to clear the rights for this Russian melody because it's not public domain, and you have to have an original theme to find and just to do in the picture because we can't use this melody." So you told me that, and I said, "Oh, bad news." I was so happy. So I started to right away to go to my piano and to write some few things. And I brought you a theme, and I thought was great. Long pause, David Lean's pause, said, "I think you can do better, Maurice." I said, "Yes, David, we are in September, and we have about 6-7 weeks to record the music." He said, "I think you can do better." So I came back, writing another theme, I thought I'd concentrate better. I was thinking about Russia and just all the same things. I wrote 4 themes with a no. Every time David said, "I think, Maurice, you can do better." So finally, I was really a little depressed and I was really nervous because the time, the pressure, 6 weeks, 5 weeks. So he said, "Look, stop to work. Just you take a weekend with your girlfriend. You go to the mountain," because he knows I love mountain. So just you go to the mountain and just don't think about Russia. Think about love. Think about just you are with your girlfriend. So I just went to the mountain. And I came back on Monday morning. I remember in 1 hour, I wrote, and I gave him, I said, "That's it. That's it." And I think what you don't remember what you said when we recorded all the music at MGM after just the score was finished and you were happy and you said, "Maurice, you see, I was right, but I think you should make a phone call." I said, "Yes, why?" "You should make a phone call to the copyright lawyer and say thank you."
To obtain unforgettable images like the sun rising over the Arabian desert, one hears that Sir David never hesitates to get actors out of bed at ungodly hours. So it is no surprise that 2 actors who were working in England were willing to get up at 4 a.m. London time to salute you. Live from the Fox Hills Inn in Ottershaw, Surrey, Peter O'Toole, and Omar Sharif.
Dear David, it is no secret that first thing in the morning you do not find me at my best. It is no secret, certainly not to you, and to many other of my film world colleagues. However, you do not find me at my worst either. You do, however, find me. When you have absorbed all these uniquely deserved and proper plaudits, and when you are fed to the teeth of saying too kind, most loyal, everybody very good and gracious. Now, I can say this because of my abiding affection and my deep respect. What would please me, and I'm sure the entire cinema-going world, if you were simply to get off your arse and go out and make a picture.
Hello, David. As usual, he said what I was just about to say. But it's very difficult doing this because you can see us and we can't see you. But I'm trying to imagine what's going on at the moment where you are. Everybody's had decaf with sweet and low. Some of you are sipping diet champagne, I suppose, with whole wheat petit four. And people have been saying wonderful things about your great achievements in the film industry. And pretty soon somebody is going to get up and say, ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise for Sir David Lean? Well, at this point, I would like to, just for a minute, be a director and tell you what to do, David, as you've always told me what to do. When they start applauding, standing ovation and all, you get up slowly, David, don't hurry, and stand absolutely still. Wait for it all to subside. Then take half a step towards the mic and hold the silence for a little while. You've got them there, David. And then, with your inimitable accent, say what everybody is waiting to hear. You ain't seen nothing yet. Good evening.
To present the Life Achievement Award, the founder of the American Film Institute and its current co-chairman, George Stevens, Jr.
60 years ago, he started out in the editing room at British Gaumont on a steady climb to the highest plateau of his profession. Today, he still talks with excitement about leaving the camaraderie of his film crew on location to return to that solitary room where he can be alone with the film. His dear friend Trevor Howard used to say, David can't wait to finish shooting so he can begin cutting the actors out of the film. It was Charles Dickens, the author of Oliver Twist and Great Expectations, who first said, "Genius is the infinite capacity for taking pains." It is David's meticulous attention to every phase of production, combined with the artistic wisdom that ensures the lasting value of his work. This award is given to a filmmaker whose work has stood the test of time. Each of his films has stood that test. Lawrence of Arabia is but one stunning example. It was the best film of 1962. 27 years later, it was re-released, and to many of us, it was the best film of 1989. The David Lean collection will be treasured as long as films are shown. Now one more look at the far horizon of this man who gives meaning to the word picture maker.